Imagine that you're a restaurant manager. You have a server who comes into work bragging about how much she got for a tax return. She's going to go out and buy a car with it. This makes you a little bit upset because you got a fraction back of what you actually paid in taxes, and you know that this server lied about what she got in tips so that she wouldn't have to pay as much in taxes. And then on top of that, through credits and deductions, she's actually getting back more money than she ever put in. So essentially, that's your money going to her. Say, we've all seen and heard about examples such as this that show how our tax system has failed. And due to the prevalence and increase of occurrences of these problems, it calls for immediate reform of our tax system. Daniel Goldberg states, in The Death of the Income Tax, a Progressive Consumption Tax and the Path to Fiscal Reform, that the income tax as it currently exists should be abandoned. It is broken beyond repair. The nation is entitled to a new and better system of taxation. He goes on to state his reasoning. The income tax is structurally flawed. It is needlessly complex, contains perverse incentives against saving and investment, fails to use modern technology to ease compliance and collection burdens, and is subject to micromanaging and mismanaging by Congress. These problems, in turn, lead to non-compliance with income tax, resulting in hundreds of billions of dollars of tax revenue not collected each year, and to large costs required to run the tax system. At the same time, the government also recognizes that there are concerns and issues with the current tax system. And on the U.S. Government Accountability Office's website, it's stated that dissatisfaction with our current federal tax system has fueled a debate about fundamental tax reform due to concerns about the current federal tax system's economic inefficiency, unfairness, and complexity. And also, along with all these problems that they mentioned, there's just simple dishonesty, like with the server example. You know, everyone's looking for loopholes. You know, what credit can I get? What deduction can I have? What can I omit from my taxes? So, you know, we all know of examples of this problem. So what's the solution? Well, Representative Bill Archer in Tax Reform and the Consumption Tax states, I want to tear the income tax out by its roots so that it can never grow back again. I want to get the IRS out of the individual lives of all Americans and eliminate all the loopholes in the tax code, creating a new, fairer system. The only way to achieve this is by replacing the income tax with a tax on the consumption of goods and services. And this idea of a consumption tax instead of an income tax is actually becoming more widely accepted at this time. So what is a consumption tax? Well, in Taxing Spending, the Case for a National Consumption Tax, Steve Brooks explains that consumption taxes share one principle. Instead of taxing what Americans earn, tax what they spend. So you're going to be taxed on what you consume rather than what you're earning. There's many different forms that a consumption tax can take. Right now, one of the most accepted forms is very similar to our current tax system, but in reverse. So you would take your income and subtract out what you're saving, and the difference is what you would be taxed on. So you'd be taxed on what you've spent. Another type of tax that's actually gaining a lot of momentum right now, it's called a value-added tax, or a VAT for short. This is similar to a sales tax. It adds tax to purchases. It's determined a little bit differently though. Steve Brooks explains it as a VAT works much like a sales tax, but instead of being collected once when a consumer buys a finished product, it's collected in bits and pieces at every step along the business supply chain. Essentially, each company pays tax on the difference between the materials it buys and the products it sells, the value it adds to the product. Now, using a VAT would actually help to decrease the complexity of the tax system as well. Slumrad and Bakija, in Taxing Ourselves, A Citizen's Guide to the Great Debate Over Tax Reform, acknowledge this by saying, Replacing the income tax with a comprehensive single rate VAT could provide an enormous amount of simplification. Individual income tax returns could be completely eliminated, and business tax returns could be significantly simplified, requiring a little more information than is now collected in the normal course of business. Complex depreciation deductions would be eliminated. It would also be easier to enforce than the combined personal and corporate income tax codes. So these are just a few of the most prevalent ideas on how to reform the tax system right now. So what's the best plan? Well, I propose that we actually decrease the income tax and put it at a flat percentage rate, so everybody pays the same percent, and add on to that the value-added tax. We would need laws written so that Congress would utilize the funds correctly, how they're supposed to be, and also so that they couldn't raise taxes without voter approval. So why not do away with income taxes completely? Well, through everything I've seen and read, it states that if we went completely to a value-added tax, the prices of our products would raise anywhere from 35 to 65%. And nobody wants to pay that much. So if you find the nice middle ground where you do lower the taxes and you keep that flat rate so everything is more fair between everyone, and you just supplement it with the value-added tax. This would keep loopholes and deception minimized. You also wouldn't be penalizing one person for working harder than another and making more money. Everyone would be paying the same percent. And you would see a lot less examples like the waitress example at the beginning, where she's paying less in because of her deception, but getting more back because of the credits and deductions, which really are not fair to the system. And while no tax system could be perfect, what I propose would improve upon the current issues that we have, and it would make our system more fair. Your money would be used where it's intended, not falling into the pocket of the undeserving.